The topic of today's sermon is two soldiers. Now, imagine this story with me. Once upon a time, a long time ago in a small country, this small country has an army and everyone gets forced to go into the army. But because this country doesn't have a lot of war and a lot of battles, people seem to think that being in the army is a waste of time, it's silly. So two guys go into the army. Let's call them Mike and John. John and Mike are both in the army, but they have different personalities. Now every day the trainer says, okay, wake up at 5 o'clock and run, but I'm not going to watch you. So Mike wakes up at 5 and goes for the run. But John says, well, no one's watching me, so I'm just going to go at the end and just finish the run. Just enough to do it, but not really the whole time. Then there's like, everyone should do your own push-ups. Do 100 push-ups a day to keep in shape. Well, Mike does 100 push-ups. John does sometimes, doesn't do it sometimes, remembers sometimes, doesn't remember sometimes. It's time to go on the daily hikes. And they say, I want you to carry a backpack with 100 pounds in it to get more strength. Well, Mike puts 100 pounds in his bag and goes for the hike. John goes, but since no one checks the bag, he puts about 10 pounds in the bag and takes the hike. Now, over time, he does this with everything. They train shooting guns, they train running and jumping and climbing and fighting and martial arts and, all these survival skills. And in every single thing, Mike does the full. He does all the work, he tries really hard, and he has good intention. Whereas with John, he's not an evil guy. He's not bad, he just doesn't see the point in it. Like, what's the point? There's no war, I'm not going to fight anyone, so why even try? But guess what happens? All of a sudden, they get some weird president who goes crazy and declares war on another country, and suddenly they have to go to war. And during the war, this is when the bad thing happens. They get separated from their group and they get stranded in the forest. While they're in the forest, it's time to, they're carrying all this heavy gear and they have to find, survival. And they have a really hard time. But Mike is very strong. He has the endurance, he has the mental fortitude, and he's very strong. So he's able to survive. John is having a very hard time surviving because he's not strong. He doesn't have the endurance, he doesn't have the information. And so he has to rely on Mike to protect him and to carry him out of the forest. And when you look back at this, I don't want to tell the story where one guy dies, it doesn't have to get that dramatic, but what's the difference between the two people? Is that one person continuously did their best, no matter what, for themselves. And in the end, what happened? He got the result. During the hike, during the carry, he was fine, and he could even help other people. But whereas the other guy, just because he didn't know why to do it, he didn't do it. And when it came down to one day you need it, you don't have it. There's tons of stories like this in fables and Aesop fables with you ever heard the ants and the grasshopper, where the ants work hard all the time and the grasshopper's lazy and laying in the sun, and then the winter comes around and the ants have all the food and the grasshopper has nothing and he dies. The trick is, once you hear these stories, how do you apply them to your regular life? Ask yourself, if I were to go to your house right now, is your bathroom clean? Is your bedroom clean? Is your kitchen clean? Have you finished your work? Is your closet clean? Are there things that you'd rather people not see? Are you working out? Are you studying when you have time? Are you improving yourselves every day? Or are you still spending your days lazy? Spending your days not really doing anything of purpose? That's why when the Buddha taught a lesson, he said, as each day passes, look back and say, what have I done today? Did I do anything important today? Because when you get ready to die, trust me, this is what's going to happen to you. You're going to look back on your life and say, am I going to go to hell or am I going to go to heaven? And you say, of course I want to go to heaven. And then you're going to ask yourself one very important question. Do you deserve it? And that's when all the bad things you've ever done will pop into your head. Oh, I hit that person, I did this, I did that. And you're going to get so ashamed of yourself because you didn't do any good. And you will have to go to hell because of how you feel. But if you do like a lot of good people do, you exercise, you take care of yourself, you're respectful to your parents, you do your job, you do your duty, you help people when you can, you make donations to those who need it, you practice your mental facilities and spirituality. when it's time to die and it says, do you deserve it? And you start listing it out. Every birthday, every major holiday, every event, I always help, I always go to the food bank, I come to the temple, I help build this building, I help build that thing. You have an unlimited list of all the great things that you've done in life. You have no choice but to go to heaven because you totally deserve it. And so it comes down to, just because you don't see the future, you don't know when you will need it, it doesn't mean you shouldn't build it. It doesn't mean you shouldn't train it. Because in the end, you're not doing it for me. You're not doing it for your friends. You're not even doing it for your family. You're doing it for you. Everything that you put into your life, you get back. And it's fair. It's very fair. But if you don't do it, you don't put it in, you don't get it. And when you don't get it and you need it, it's too late to cry then. Just like the grasshopper, just like the soldier who didn't train, it's too late. So it's your choice. Your life is not over. You have a lot of life left, hopefully. You can still make the right choice. So from now on, make the right choice.